The Trumpet Daily program begins right now.
Today's world news, what it means, where it's taking us.
I bring you the one and only possible message of world peace.
This is a message of hope, tremendous hope. And he said unto me, you must prophesy again.
The Trumpet Daily program begins right now.
We begin this morning with a Fox News alert. 2 Israeli diplomats killed in Washington, D.C. after a shooter opens fire outside the Capitol Jewish Museum. A suspect is in custody as we learn about the possible motive behind this horrific act.
Some are already calling a brazen act of terrorism.
The shooting happening less than a mile from Washington's FBI building and less than 10 minutes from the White House.
He approached a group of 4 people, produced a handgun, and opened fire, striking both of our decedents.
It's a young couple about to be engaged. The young man purchased a ring this week with the intention of proposing to his girlfriend next week in Jerusalem.
I
was walking by, and a guy came up and looked like a gun. I couldn't tell what it was, but I heard it afterwards, the shots, and he shot this young couple. And he ran inside and yelled something. I couldn't make it out what he said. He just ran up. It was terrible.
Free Palestine! Pro-Hamas! Free Palestine!
When the cops actually came in, he said, "I did this." He said, "Sir, I'm unarmed." He put his hands up. He grabbed a red keffiyeh out of his pocket and started the Free Palestine chants. You know, there's only one solution, Intifada revolution. And he was being dragged out of the building as he was yelling Free Palestine, and he kept yelling Free Palestine.
We have the FBI, all of our federal agencies will work hand in hand with you, Chief, as we have done, and you, Mayor, to do everything we can to keep our citizens safe. We will follow the facts, we will follow the law, and this defendant, if charged, will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
Was it simply a matter of time that the violent anti-Semitic rhetoric that we have seen festering in this country over the last 2 years escalated to murder?
Yeah, absolutely. I think with everything going back and some of the recent postings with the media on some of the things that were going on in Gaza, it's just accumulated to the point where someone felt they had to take something into their own hands, like that, like happened last night.
We are witnessing the terrible price of anti-Semitism and wild incitement against Israel. The blood libels against Israel are costing blood and must be combated to the bitter end.
Brought to you by Qatar. It was only a matter of time, right? You heard it there in the cold open. You think about what's been going on. The Free Palestine movement, I mean, that was what they were chanting all last year, following October 7. Free Palestine. It's not about 2 states. The whole area from the river to the sea, as they chant. You've got to get rid of the Jews. That's the objective. That's the goal. And here comes this killer, this terrorist on U.S. soil. And he guns down this young Jewish couple working at the Israeli embassy in D.C., Washington, D.C., just down the road from FBI headquarters, just down the road from the White House. And then as he's apprehended, as he's arrested, he's chanting, Free Palestine. There's only one solution, Intifada revolution. You're listening to Stephen Flurry, and this is the Trumpet Daily. We appreciate you joining us on today's show. You can get to the live video stream of this program at trumpetdaily.com or at the Rumble channel. Just go to rumble.com/Trumpet Daily. So 2 young, I think the gal was a Jewish American and the other one an Israeli, got the wedding ring. He was going to propose to her next week in Jerusalem. And they're gunned down in cold blood last night in Washington, D.C. And this follows all of these pro-Hamas demonstrations that we've been seeing play out in the United States. Will Sussman, he summed it up this way. This did not happen in a vacuum. It's the inevitable result of more than a year of anti-Israel and anti-Semitic hatred that has been tolerated and even encouraged in our institutions. This has been encouraged by Qatar and others in the system of higher education right here in the United States of America. Homegrown terrorism, that's what it amounts to. Only one solution in their minds: Intifada revolution. That's the mindset, the thinking that motivated October 7. He says here, from college campuses to the halls of Congress, this hatred has been allowed to fester unchecked. Yeah, where are all the prominent Democrats denouncing this? They've gone quiet. Just turn a blind eye to this kind of violence. Some even encourage. Look at what happened when the assassin took out the big pharma guy. I mean, he was lionized, still is, on the left. I think this killer, last night's murderer, I think he even tweeted out some kind of praise for Luigi a while back. What a sick world we're living in. It's just an outgrowth of all of these demonstrations that we've tolerated, that we've encouraged, that Qatar has financed. We played this for you in the thick of it last year. This is clip 15.
Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea. Palestine will be free. Palestine will be free. Free Palestine. Free Palestine.
That's what this is about. From the river to the sea. It's about exterminating the Jews. It's not about living peacefully side by side. When was it that Israel pulled out of Gaza completely? Had its own state, basically, and they decided they wanted Hamas to run the show. And Hamas is what organized October 7. Hamas's leaders, situated in Qatar. They and you have leaders in Saudi Arabia and Qatar that have praised the masterminds behind it. The October 7 attack. 1,200 Israeli citizens murdered. How soon we forget. You know, this Sussman, he says here, tonight's tragedy will be a wake-up call for many. I think that maybe is the one statement I don't quite agree with. Will it really wake us up? Did October 7 wake us up? Did the Holocaust wake us up? You know, Herbert Armstrong he made an interesting observation. This is many years ago, many decades ago, in the autobiography. He said, some allowing themselves to become hooked on the insidious, poisonous drug of anti-Semitism and hatred for Jews have never learned all there is to know about Jewish people. Mr. Armstrong called it anti-Semitism, hatred for Jews. He said it was like a drug. And it's just pouring into the United States, just like fentanyl, except that it's a mental drug. And as you've probably noticed, certainly if you've watched this show, I mean, more and more people worldwide are getting hooked on it. Jewish hatred for Jews. It's been there for 2,000 years. and it's intensifying. Listen to Fox News commentator Mark Levin, clip 12.
They've all but destroyed our Ivy League schools, and they're working now in K through 12. What are we going to do? Yell the First Amendment? Free speech? What are we going to do? Allow them to keep pouring money into our country, buying sporting events, buying politicians, buying businesses, and then pretend when they put smiles on their faces and they're driving around in their Mercedes-Benz that they aren't the terrorists that they are?
Yeah. They're jihadists in suits, right? So sure, and the money just pours in to the Ivy League institutions, to Congress. Well, and again, Mark Levin criticizes the radical left, and this was a radical leftist that carried out the violence. But who's bringing all the money in? We covered this with you last week on the show. If I can skip ahead to that clip from President Trump. I think this is from Monday night at the Kennedy Center, clip 13.
And we brought back about $5.1 trillion. That's not bad. And it's being credited as one of maybe the most successful visit that anybody's ever made to any place. There's never been anything like this.
Trillions come in, and people applaud. This after a trip to Qatar, Saudi Arabia. Forget the other place, UAE maybe. Didn't go to Israel, couldn't go to Israel. He's got to send a message. And so does J.D. Vance. They've got to send a message. We've got to tell Israel to dial back the violence. And then last night, wouldn't you know, an act of terrorism right on U.S. soil, in the nation's capital of all places, outside of a Jewish museum, Washington, D.C. It's a dangerous time that we're living in. I mean, in the 1930s, just look at some relatively recent history. Adolf Hitler, he was leading the charge in hatred for Jews. The extermination campaign to wipe out the Jewish race. 6 million Jews slaughtered. And that, for a time, a short time, we now see, it woke up the world to the seriousness of Jewish hatred or hatred for Jews. It shocked people. It led into little Israel getting its own state. It certainly had a strong hand in it. And for a time, there was a tremendous outpouring of sympathy for the Jewish people. But how soon we forget. And that just shows, doesn't it, that Satan is the god of this world, as I've been saying this week. Satan is the god of this world. There's plenty of people that go to Ivy League universities that don't even believe the Holocaust happened. Mark Levin, in that interview with Fox News, he said there's images, there's video from October 7 that we can't even show. It's so gruesome. It's so vile. It's so disgusting. It's so violent. So news producers decide, let's not show that because it's a little bit too much. It's a little bit too gory. Yesterday I went through that UN Holocaust Remembrance Day and the changes they've made to their exhibit. Just to repeat a little bit from that, the current UN Holocaust exhibit has eliminated key features of the original display from 2008. And then there's all these pictures of these Nazis carrying out atrocities of the worst kind. And the UN has decided, well, let's just remove those photos. And also, let's tell you about some other atrocities in history. And kind of downplay what happened to the Jews. And also, we've got to point out that Israelis today, they're like Nazis in a lot of ways. You hear the chanting, liberation, occupation. We've got to have, the whole area from the river to the sea, from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea. The Jews shouldn't be anywhere in between there. They've got to be exterminated. That's the objective. That's the motivation. That's the mindset. These are the times we're living in. The last days, as Paul said, are going to be dangerous times. That article I gave to you yesterday on the UN. Perhaps most important is the UN exhibits audacious redefinition of the word Holocaust. You see, just change the definition, just remove some of the pictures, just downplay what happened. 6 million Jews slaughtered, murdered, going off to the gas chambers, the ovens. Did that really happen? Well, October 7 gave us a pretty powerful reminder. Should have been a wake-up call. Did it wake up the world? No, it led to worldwide pro-Hamas demonstrations. These are dangerous times. And there's verses in the Bible that talk about Satan's desire, and Satan works through individuals. He works through the human heart. The desire to just blot out entire peoples, nations. And we've seen it play out here in the United States. Look at the fundamental transformation that very nearly happened because one leader, inspired by the devil, hates his country so much he just wanted to destroy it, blot it out. God intervened to prevent that from happening. But listen, are we waking up to what's happening? As I said, 2 Timothy 3, verses 1 through 4. I read it earlier this week. In the last days, dangerous times shall come. Now, and I've also said recently, you hear the diplomats talking about peace, and we'll get to some of that in just a second. You hear the theologians even, the preachers, talking about a golden age, a time of peace, like never before. But what does your Bible say about the last days? Jesus compared it to the days just before the flood and just before Sodom and Gomorrah went up in flames. I mean, that doesn't sound like a golden age to me. That doesn't sound very pleasant. Now, it's not like there's not a positive message in the Bible. There is. But it's like I said yesterday, the hope is in the return of Jesus Christ and the resurrection of the firstfruits and the establishment of God's family on earth. God's kingdom on earth. In the last days, Paul said, men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce, despisers of those that are good, traitors, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasures more than lovers of God. It's a perfect description of our world, of our nations. And yet, I mean, look at how many of these sins and these problems, we just turn a blind eye to it. We turn a blind eye to those sins. Peter said, knowing this first, that there shall come in the last days scoffers, walking after their own lusts. People scoffing at the prophecies of God. People saying, you know what? This is an age of peace and prosperity that's going to continue forever. They passed the big, beautiful bill in the dark of night, as per usual, and basically say, you know what? We're going to kick the can down the road for 5 years and just add to deficit spending, and then we'll finally get around to tightening our belts financially. Okay, we've heard that a time or two. We hear that all the time. Well, we have to spend now. We just have to do it. How long can this go on? 1 Timothy 4:1, now the Spirit speaks expressly that in the last times, in the latter times, some shall depart from the faith. So this is how the Bible characterizes the last days. Dangerous, people departing from, great falling away from the truth, lovers of pleasures, self-love, no love for God and His law. John said, little children, it is the last hour. And there's going to be a lot of people opposing Christ and the truth of God, like Paul said in 2 Timothy 3, despising those that are good. Isaiah 59 says that the righteous will make themselves a prey, P-R-E-Y, a target, in other words. These two Jews in Washington, D.C. were targeted by an assassin who wants Palestine to be free, who wants Palestine to be free of Jews. Is that thinking really possible in the last days? It's not just possible, it's prophesied, as I've been saying, Jeremiah 17, 2 Corinthians 4:4, Ephesians 2:2. We've got to go to the scriptures to understand why this is happening, how this could happen. How could it happen again? Wasn't the Holocaust enough of a wake-up call? But no, then we've got to fast forward to October 7. And then now there's this in Washington, D.C., just down the road from the White House. These are the people behind this movement are the ones the United States is negotiating with. We think we can make peace through dialogue. Just sit out and talk about it. Meanwhile, the propaganda, we're just being bombarded by it. Listen to this from ABC as it talks about the babies by the thousands that the Jews are killing in Gaza. Here's a good bit of propaganda that just goes right out on the ABC airwaves, goes right out from coast to coast in the United States of America. Clip 3.
Israel's now under massive pressure from its allies over its escalating bombing inside Gaza, but in particular, the rapidly deteriorating humanitarian crisis there. The UN warning that as many as 14,000 babies could die in the next 48 hours. Israel blocking all food and medicines now for nearly 3 months, saying it's trying to pressure Hamas to release hostages, including, of course, the 4 Americans believed to be dead. But now Canada, Britain and France condemning Israel's war. And President Trump also acknowledging people in Gaza are starving. Under pressure, Israel is now allowing some aid in, but the UN says none of it has been distributed yet. The situation, though, on the children's wards in Gaza's beleaguered hospitals are grim, with many newborn infants severely underweight.
You heard that right. I should have cut it off there at the middle. But they got the stat, you guessed it, from the United Nations. The same UN that's just removing the most gruesome of photos in the Holocaust exhibit of all exhibits. Yeah, just erase it. It really wasn't that bad. In fact, we can replace it with some photos showing Jews that were, kind of pleasantly enjoying the Holocaust. And also we'll change the definition of Holocaust. How about that? The UN told this news agency that in the next 48 hours, that's 2 days, Israel, the Jews are going to be responsible for killing 14,000 babies. And so as an outgrowth of that, you've got these young, educated Ivy Leaguers taking to the streets. Free Palestine, from the river to the sea. Liberate Palestine. Get rid of that Israeli occupation. Get rid of the Jews. Everything's solved. If you can just get rid of the Jews. Haven't we been through this before? It seems like we've had quite a few wake-up calls, but we're not listening. Hatred for Jews, it's a drug. Herbert Armstrong was right. It's a drug, and you can't understand it unless you understand a thing or two about the devil and the truth about the spiritual Jews that Satan also hates. God's people, God's family. It's just an extension of that hatred, that rage that the devil has for God's purpose and plan as it plays out. God's purpose is going forward. Even in the midst of all this violence that we see, this world it's on life support. It's a very dark, evil, and dangerous world. That's how your Bible describes it. There's no getting around that. And you have to confront evil. If you're going to last for very long in this dangerous world, you better confront the bad guy. You better confront the evil. You better confront the terrorists. You better confront those who are sponsoring the terrorism. You better expose the terrorist propaganda as well. We played this on Monday. Listen to Donald Trump, his administration at the start of the first term, back in 2017 and 18, as they were correctly identifying those behind these acts of terrorism that go on all over the world. Clip 7.
Hillary took millions from Kuwait, Qatar, Oman, and many other countries that horribly abuse women.
Why don't you give back the money that you've taken from certain countries that treat certain groups of people so horribly? Why don't you give back the money?
The nation of Qatar, unfortunately, has historically been a funder of terrorism at a very high level. The time had come to call on Qatar to end its funding. They have to end that funding and its extremist ideology in terms of funding.
Now, that's in 2017. And what about that extremist ideology between 2017 and today, or between 2017 and October 7, that 6-year period? I mean, the wake-up call was when there were spontaneous protests or demonstrations in response to Hamas and what it carried out on October 7. I mean, that was shocking. That was mind-blowing. What? How could this happen? They went across into Israel and slaughtered 1,200 Jews, and now we're going to take to the streets to support the murderers? Could that really be happening in the United States? In Great Britain? In the Muslim world? It sure did. And last night, as that commentator said, that didn't happen in a vacuum. Free Palestine, he said as he was being arrested. He admitted to killing them. Yeah, I murdered them. I did it. And I did it for Palestine. I did it for those 14,000 babies that the Jews are slaughtering. So much propaganda. And it's sponsored by the UN. It's sponsored by Qatar. It's sponsored by the university campuses. It's sponsored by Hamas. It's sponsored by ABC. It's sponsored by BBC. How is there so much hatred for Jewish people? There's a lot of hatred in the world for white people as well. And Donald Trump, to his credit yesterday, I mean, he had the president of South Africa in the Oval Office, and he exposed this man. He said, look, you're behind a message that's promoting murdering white farmers. And the man said, no, that doesn't happen. And Donald Trump, in that case, he brought the receipts. This is clip 14.
What will it take for you to be convinced that there's no white genocide in South Africa?
Well, I can answer that for the president. It's for him. No, seriously.
I'd rather have him answer.
Yeah, I'd rather answer that. It will be.
Our president will respond to you.
Yeah, let me,
Thank you, Mr. President.
It will take President Trump listening to the voices of South Africa.
But, Mr. President, I must say that we have, wait. We have thousands of stories talking about it. Sure. And we have documentaries, we have news stories, and that. Is Natalie here, somebody here to turn that? I could show you a couple of things, and it has to be responded to.
Yeah, sure.
Let me see the articles, please, if you would, and turn the lights down. Turn the lights down. and just put this on. It's right behind you, Johan.
There's nothing this parliament can do. With or without you, people are going to occupy land. We require no permission from you, from the president, from no one. We don't care. We can do whatever you want to do. Who are you to tell us whether we can occupy land or not? We must never be scared to kill. A revolution demands that at some point there must be killing, because the killing is part of a revolutionary act. Shoot to kill. Come on, sir. Kill the poor, the farmer. Kill the poor, the farmer.
Now this is very bad. These are burial sites right here. Burial sites. Over 1,000 of white farmers.
Have they told you where that is, Mr. President? No, I'd like to know where that is, because this I've never seen. But, okay.
I mean, it's in South Africa. These are articles over the last few days. Death of people. Death. 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 Horrible death. Death. I don't know. To pick anyone, white South Africans are fleeing because of the violence and racist laws.
They're fleeing. The U.S., we covered this last week, took in 59 of those white South African farmers. And then the regime media here defends Ramaphosa, the black president there, who said, Mr. President, tell me where this is. I've never seen this. I've never seen any murder. I've never seen these graves that you speak of. It's in his own country. And so there's President Trump showing the pictures, showing the video. It's powerful, isn't it? But my question is, where is Steve Witkoff when he's sitting down with Iran or Qatar or Hamas? Where are his video demonstrations or pictures of all the bloodshed, the carnage, the violence, the murder that those states sponsor? You heard them chanting, these prominent black South Africans. It's time for us to start killing. It's time for us to hit them. It's time for them to be 86th. The spirit of hatred and rage and murder, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. And to his credit, Donald Trump, he confronted it yesterday. But if we're just to go on the thinking that you're hearing coming out of the Middle East or with Putin or whoever, hey, forget about the farmers. Let's just do a deal with Ramaphosa. Just do a deal, and that'll solve everything. It's as if we're just making it up as we go. And there's double standards all over the place. And, well, we'll expose this grave evil over here. But, over here, we'll just turn a blind eye to it. It's Judges 21 and verse 25. Everyone's just doing what seems right in their own eyes. Show me the picture. Where is this, President Trump? I've never seen it. What you saw right there is a war over the truth. What is truth and what is propaganda? And the Bible has a lot to say about that as well. Last night in our Trumpet brief, we wrote, the White House is afflicted with peace derangement syndrome. President Donald Trump seems determined to do peace deals at any cost, even if it means negotiating with dictators and terrorists. Last week, President Trump accepted a $400 million plane from Qatar, which sponsors Hamas, and made an agreement with the new regime in Syria, which is jihadist. This week, he praised Russian dictator Vladimir Putin as a nice gentleman. These nice gentlemen are murdering people. And last night, what you saw or heard about These murders in D.C., it's just an outgrowth of this murderous spirit that's being actively encouraged and promoted by very powerful people. Wickedness in high places. Listen, I played this for you Monday, but it's worth repeating here. This is Steve Witkoff on Sunday, clip 5.
Well, the president has been very clear. He wants to solve this conflict diplomatically and with dialogue. And he's given all the signals. He's directly sent letters to the supreme leader. We've delivered a proposal to the Iranians that we think addresses some of this without disrespecting them. And so that's important. There are all kinds of ways for us to achieve our goals in this negotiation. We think that we will be meeting sometime this week in Europe.
In the last 24 years, since 9/11, Iran has been responsible for murdering tens of thousands of Americans. Tens of thousands. So if you're going to talk to them, show them the receipts. Show them the pictures. Show them the graveyards. Show them the footage. How do you explain this? I mean, Pam Bondi was in the cold open. Imagine if she came out last night after these gruesome murders and said, you know what, we're going to sit down and try to solve this with dialogue. That's the way we're going. And we're going to make a deal as well. Is that how you solve this kind of violence? This kind of murderous spirit that's so pervasive around the world? This is Mark Levin again, responding to those killings last night, clip 9.
This is being funded by Qatar and other countries. There's a funding network. There are more Islamist front groups in this country, terrorist front groups in this country. They multiply like rabbits. Congress is not doing enough to stop this. I know the administration is doing yeoman's work, unlike the prior administration. This is what happens when you have open borders and unfettered and unvetted immigration, particularly from the Middle East. Our courts are not capable by ideological and administrative processes to deal with. In fact, they are obstructing efforts by this administration to deport the enemy, and they are the enemy. They're not an adversary. They're not a bunch of punks just with big mouths. They're marching through the streets like no Nazis ever have, like no Klansmen ever have in our country, calling for the destruction of the United States of America, the overthrow of the West, burning the American flag, chasing Jewish students on college campuses, threatening elderly Jews who hold signs on the streets peacefully, attacking our synagogues. Now, I say this to my fellow Americans. Is this what we want? Is this who we are?
Evidently it is, because everything he described there is spot on. I mean, we've seen it. We see it play out on university campuses and in the most extreme acts of hatred and rage and violence. You have murders like last night, and it's being funded by Qatar and other countries that we're making deals with, that we're bragging about, that people are applauding. Listen to clip 10.
Stop every penny coming into this country from these terrorist states. I don't care if they put smiles on their faces and hold seminars or whatever they're doing. They're the enemy. They're the enemy. They funded 9/11. 9/11 wasn't even about Jews or Israel. It's about us. They killed over 2,000 of our people. Let the Israelis win their war against Hamas. Stop holding them back. They killed over 1,200 of their people in the most heinous ways, so horrific that the videos haven't been released on any single cable or network television show. That's how horrible it is. If you want to act like a subhuman, you need to be treated like a subhuman. These terrorist organizations, they don't think like we do. They don't think like the West. They see weakness because there is weakness.
So horrific that the cable news shows won't even show it. October 7. We need to play that video we made, 30-minute video or so, I think it was, on October 7. And I will tell you that when we were producing that, when we were putting it together, Sam was saying how that after a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks go by, and suddenly it's more difficult to get to some of that footage that was there, that was visible right after October 7th. As it was happening, you could get online and actually see some of the horrific atrocities. But then, it started to disappear, just like those pictures in the Holocaust exhibit at the UN. Yeah, let's just get rid of those. I mean, it looks kind of bad. Yeah, that's right. It should be a wake-up call. How many wake-up calls do we need? Evidently, we need a lot of them. Because these kinds of things, they just keep happening. And then, I think it was Levin who said 2-3 days go by and, it's off the news cycle. Nobody's going to be talking about a murder, a terrorist attack in Washington, D.C. Because, it was only 2 people. So on Saturday, this Sunday, we're not going to be talking about this. No, there's going to be big, beautiful bills to talk about or something else. For sure. That's the way it works. That's the way it goes. Sussman said, now, will this be a wake-up call? I don't think it will be. I know it won't be. Because the Bible says these kinds of things are going to get worse and worse and worse in the lead up to the return of Jesus Christ. That's the truth of the Bible. It's not a pleasant message, not in the short term. But we've got to get ourselves ready. We've got to brace ourselves for what's coming. Here's clip 11.
How many more reports have to be published about the amount of money that's being poured into this country by these terrorist states like Qatar, like Iran? We can allow Iran to get a nuclear weapon? The president says no. Isn't it time that the entire nation says no, rather than a debate on whether we can manage a nuclearized Iran? They want to destroy us. They've tried to assassinate our president. How many more signals do they need to send us? What else do they need to do? They are eating away at our country from within.
He's exactly right. We're being overrun in more ways than just the 20 million that have come across the southern border. More than just fentanyl and the sex trafficking and all those things. We're being overrun by propaganda as well. How many more signals do we need? Iran tried to assassinate Donald Trump. And yet, according to Witkoff, we really believe. We've sent letters to the mullahs, and they've been respectful. They've been You know what the mullahs need? They need a meeting like that South African president had yesterday with President Trump. Here's what you've done. Here's how many you've killed and murdered and maimed and disfigured. Instead, they get a nice chat with a U.S. diplomat. And then they go about their meetings, they're on television, chanting death to America, free Palestine, from the river to the sea, liberation, liberation, occupation. Listen to what they're saying. Levin says they want to kill us. They want to kill us. In the Epistles of Peter booklet, it says God is going to take mankind to the point where people will know there is no hope in man, and they are willing to heed God's word, the Bible. This week we've talked about the curse that is trusting in man, trusting in the human heart, trusting in very evil men in some cases. Listen to this from a while back. This is Steve Witkoff with Tucker Carlson, clip 1.
I think we'll prove that they won't be an existential risk either. But if we can get these terrorist organizations eliminated as risks, not existential, but still risks, they're destabilizing risks, then we'll normalize everywhere. I think Lebanon could normalize with Israel, literally. Normalize meaning a peace treaty with the two countries. That's really possible. Syria, too. The indications are that Jelani is a different person than he once was, and people do change. You at 55 are completely different than how you were at 35.
That's for
and
sure.
I say to myself, I'm a different person today at 68 years old. I'm not the person I knew 30 years ago. So maybe Jelani in Syria is a different guy.
Huh, maybe he's different. I think Ramaphosa's 73. Shouldn't Trump give him the benefit of the doubt? Say, hey, I know you've had a racist past, but now that you're 73, I think we can do a deal. I think you've changed. Maybe there's not as much to get in making a deal with South Africa as there is with Qatar, which is fabulously wealthy. Just make a deal, and if we can just eliminate the terrorist risk, hey, we can work with Hezbollah. We can work with Syria. Jelani is, he's Al-Qaeda. I mean, he used to be. But look, Tucker, you're different at 55 than you were at 35. Well, yeah, that's true. That's very true. So Jelani is growing. His character is improving. The terrorist mindset, I think it's gone. This is coming from our chief diplomat, our chief peacemaker, at least in the Middle East region. And then in the same interview, this is unbelievable. In the same interview, listen to Witkoff explain why we can work with Qatar and Saudi Arabia and the UAE. This is clip 2.
And remember, Tucker, one more thing, as a condition in that region, you have young leadership. You have young leadership in MBS. You have relatively young leadership in the UAE. You have relatively young leadership, new leadership in Qatar. People who don't have the old sensibilities, people who want to do business, who realizes, like Trump's way is people vote their pocketbook, right? So he wants to bring the bacon home to the United States. I think everybody's bought into that over in the GCC.
I agree. I mean, we're reverting to like human nature. People want stability and prosperity, for sure.
Correct.
But looming over all of these countries and their remarkable success, both economically and socially, they're just like great countries, in my opinion, is the conflict in Gaza, and not just Gaza, but the idea that, wow, this could all blow up tomorrow because we don't know what the Israeli plan is. And even people who should know don't seem to know. And do you think at some point they will articulate, like, here's our plan?
I think so. First of all, I think that the President Trump's approach to Gaza has engendered a lot of lively discussion about different ways to deal with Gaza.
Before the second half there, he says, look, the reason we can work with these countries is they have young leadership without the old sensibilities. So in this case, hey, because they're young, it works to our advantage. Now, in Jelani's case, he's older now. So he's not like he was when he was a young terrorist. There's change, you see, that happens as you grow older. Or is it the young are to be preferred because they don't have the old sensibilities? Well, last time I checked, with all of those protests, those demonstrations that just took to the streets in the UK, in the United States, these were young people. Young people without the old sensibilities? There is a new wave of Jew hatred that's sweeping across the world, young and old. You heard the Supreme Leader. He led the chant, "Death to America." As Mark Levin says, they want to kill us. They want to kill us. I mean, that exchange there, Tucker was talking about human nature. It's human nature to make peace and to want prosperity. Okay, well, what else about human nature? Let's talk about it. How does the Bible describe it? And then to hear the businessman, the real estate guy, say that, look, I think everybody just wants to do business. Everybody has bought into it. Just make a deal and everything's solved. Well, That's not the approach they're taking with South Africa, and they shouldn't. I'm not saying they should. They're making it up as they go. That's the truth. That's the truth. They're spot on dealing with the South African president, but then when it comes to Qatar, then when it comes to Jelani, then when it comes to the mullahs, then when it comes to Putin, hey, let's sit down, let's talk. Then we don't talk about the murder. Then we don't talk about the mayhem. Because of President Trump's approach in Gaza, it's led to a lot of discussion. Okay, and it also led, or at least Gaza, at least October 7, led to the murders last night in D.C. So how do you fix all this? Well, man can't. That's the point. There is no hope in man. No hope. And you can call something beautiful, whether it's the bill coming out of Congress or the discussions that you're having with the mullahs or the praise that you heap on the leaders of Qatar and the UAE and Saudi. They're young after all. They don't have those old sensibilities. Now, Jelani is different because he's old and he has learned to renounce his beliefs, his Al-Qaeda tendencies, his Al-Qaeda mindset. He's repented. And I think we can lift sanctions and work with these men. All of this cannot go on for much longer. Just to not shift gears too abruptly here. But in the big, beautiful bill, it's the same thing. How could so many people on the one side say, hey, it's beautiful, it's perfect, it'll solve everything. And then you've got a few, not nearly enough, but a few on the other side that says, this is going to run us into the ground. This is going to break our backs financially. We're going to increase deficit spending by the trillions. Listen to this montage, number 16.
After a long week and a long night and countless hours of work over the past year, a lot of prayer and a lot of teamwork, my friends, it quite literally is again morning in America, isn't it? All right, all right. To put it simply, this bill gets Americans back to winning again, and it's been a long time coming.
As the Speaker said, it truly is morning in America again. When you think about all of the work that's gone in to putting this bill together, it's one big, beautiful bill for a lot of reasons. There are a lot of really important wins for the American people in this bill. Democrats made it very clear they didn't want to have any part in helping get America back on track again, but we were never deterred. When this bill could have failed 10 times over, we said we were going to get this done and failure is not an option, and we meant it.
Well, I'd love to stand here and tell the American people, we can cut your taxes and we can increase spending and everything's going to be just fine. But I can't do that because I'm here to deliver a dose of reality. This bill dramatically increases deficits in the near term, but promises our government will be fiscally responsible 5 years from now. Where have we heard that before? How do you bind a future Congress to these promises? This bill is a debt bomb ticking. Congress can do funny math, fantasy math, if it wants, but bond investors don't. And this week, they sent us a message. Moody's downgraded our credit rating, and the bond investors who buy our debt and finance our debt demanded higher interest rates on the 10-year note, the 20-year note, and the 30-year note. What does this mean? Very soon, the government will be paying $16,000 of interest alone per U.S. family. And what are we telling them? Instead of taking care of that problem, we're going to give you a $1,600 tax break. Under the taxing and spending levels in this bill, we're going to rack up, the authors say, $20 trillion of new debt over the next 10 years. I'm telling you, it's closer to $30 trillion of new debt in the next 10 years. Mr. Speaker, we're not rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic tonight. We're putting coal in the boiler and setting a course for the iceberg. If something is beautiful, you don't do it after midnight.
So which is it? Is it a big, beautiful bill, or is it a big, ugly bill? Is it going to take America into a golden age, or is it a debt bomb ticking? Adding $30 trillion to the debt in the next decade? Is that a sustainable course? Well, I think you know the answer to those questions, and perhaps we can develop that a little bit more, that subject, on tomorrow's show, because as I look at the clock, we're out of time. In fact, I've taken you a minute over, but we're not going to charge you for that extra minute. You are listening to Stephen Flurry, and this is the Trumpet Daily. We thank you for joining us on today's show, and we'll see you tomorrow.